Hi, everybody. This is Carl the Prado, A to Z Business IT. And today I wanted to talk about something I've talked about in the past, but it's really important. It affects a lot of us. It's shopping safely online. And so, obviously, as the change in the season happens, I've noticed in my household, especially since I have kids, requires shopping. And, so a lot of the things that we're doing here when we talk about online shopping is kind of the same stuff that you probably would do in the store as well. We need to make sure that we're doing some of these habits. So there's some things that I'm going to list that are mandatory that you should be looking at no matter what the situation are, and there's other things that are optional that are nice to have, and I'd still recommend doing them in most cases when possible. But sometimes, let's face it, we can't do everything that we'd like to do with the time we have. We're all busy people. But the mandatory stuff is the stuff that's definitely going to help you stay safe, and the other stuff is nice to have. So before providing any information on a shopping website, stop for a second and ask yourself if anything seems unusual. And we can even take this to regular shopping. I mean, I don't know if you remember, there was a little electronics store that was like that used to be, there was Radio Shack. I'll name them. They're out of business, but they would, you go in there for a pack of batteries, and they'd want to know your blood type by the time that they were done. Well, it's the same for an online shopping center. Well, what do they need from you? Well, they probably need a payment process and where to ship the stuff. And outside of that, probably nothing else. The next thing you want to do is double check the URL. And URL is just a fancy word for the web address on your browser. Make sure that it's spelled correctly. One of the favorite tricks of spoofing a website is to have a simple, like Bank of America, they'd spoofed them a number of years ago. They'd added another N into the word bank, or they'd spelled the bank BONK of America, and people quickly browsed it and they didn't notice. But when you're starting to put your money, just make sure that your URL is spelled. Make sure that one of the classic tricks that they'll do is maybe they'll use an uppercase, what you think is I, when it's really a 1. And this is one of those tricks, or they may replace the uppercase I with a lowercase l. So you want to be careful about those type of things. Don't buy anything from an unfamiliar retailer without confirming their legitimacy. Sometimes this happens, and this goes into the other one where, you're looking for the best deal possible on something and you want to save a few dollars, and you see, you can buy it here from these people, and, but you've never dealt with them before. You don't even know if they've been around. So in that case, maybe before you press the buy it now button or the purchase, take a few seconds, maybe grab a cup of coffee. Boy, I really like coffee. Anyway, and the big one for don'ts is make a purchase on public Wi-Fi. So a lot of times when you pick up the phone, and I'll see this when you're doing you go into a location, they'll say, hey, it would be better if you pop on our Wi-Fi. And so a public Wi-Fi, first of all, is easy. Is what we can have a man-in-the-middle attack where your information can be sniffed out. But the other thing just to know on a public Wi-Fi, when you do log into those, is once you've done that, especially in a retail, even if it's legal in a retail organization, once you've been on a public Wi-Fi in any of these free Wi-Fi areas, they can now track your phone and where you've been, and they'll share that with even other retailers. And that's by itself, public Wi-Fi is one of those things you want to avoid at all costs, unless you have a VPN. So if you have a VPN on your phone, then you can go ahead and use that. But if you're like most people, you don't. So in that case, you definitely want to avoid making purchases over Wi-Fi. It's strictly one of those things that's a must for me. Okay. Don't buy anything from third-party apps. That's another one. So if you're going to go to the official retailer's site, or, when I mean third-party, there are certain stores like, a big retailer like Best Buy or B&H in the electronic world, those are fine. But if you find you're wanting to buy a particular part and it's from a reseller you've never heard about, or through a special savings app, unless that's been really vetted, I wouldn't use those. Other thing is, don't save your credit card information into your online shopping account. It might seem very convenient, and I understand why we do it, because once we sign in, we feel like we can give them that information. But if they get breached, your credit card information is already gone. So if you already saved that information into the shopping head or cart, go ahead, go back into those accounts and delete that information. And finally, always ship to a secured location. One of the nice things with Amazon, if you don't have somebody at home and you want to avoid what we call the porch pirates, those guys will steal packages off your deck or whatever. You can drop things off into lockers in the northeast. They have Kohl's, which has lockers you can pick up your stuff from. The other places, FedEx and UPS will deliver to Walgreens Walgreens, or to a FedEx. So you can always have that picked up if you don't have somebody who would be there to sign, or you're in an area where you feel like that's an issue. Again, another one is always use strong passwords with online shopping, and use a password manager like LastPass. Never give retailers, again, we were talking about, anything more than they need to process your transaction. Yeah, and always read the retailers' web pages, paying attention to special check boxes. You want to make sure that they don't sneak that little add-on that you didn't want to have. And always buy with credit cards, not debit cards. And the reason for that is credit card purchases are protected. You have a better chance of getting your money back, where debit cards, they can take your whole bank account. After shopping online, always check your financial accounts on a regular, periodic basis, like all of them, every one of them. You should be doing this all the time, and not just during holiday and shopping seasons, but early detection can significantly limit your losses and frustrations. Optional. These are the things you should consider for additional protection. Use Apple Pay or Google Pay. One of the nice things about them is when you use Apple Pay, they use a one and done number, meaning that they'll issue a number when you scan that's good for that one transaction, but can never be used again. So even if they got that number, that number is worthless to the thief. Always use VPNs, like I was talking about, virtual private networks. Check security policies on retailers' websites. Look for the return policy. You want to see those that they're posted easily and accessibly, and maybe, and if they're not, maybe think twice before buying. Another one that you can use if you want to use a debit card, use a prepaid debit card with a certain amount of money on that. So if it's compromised, your loss was limited by the amount on the card and not your entire banking, not your entire bank account. So like everything else, good, what we call informational security stems from good habits. And like all good habits, they're formed over time. So, don't get frustrated. Give yourself some time there. But these are good things for you to have in place. One of the other things that we wanted to make available for you, is there's a free resource for 15 other ways to stay secure. It's on my website. It's called 15ways.a2zbusinessit.com. I put the website in the description, in the notes here. And anyway, enjoy this holiday season. Enjoy the time with your family. I hope this helps you make sure that you have as much of an enjoyable time as possible. Thank you so much, and have a great day.